Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And before we get into the video proper, I just want to explain the thumbnail. On the thumbnail is a horrible looking creature. Comes out dark. It turns people's stomachs. And it looks a bit creepy. It looks a bit creepy. And it's a Slater. The one on the right, that's a woodlouse, which is also known as a Slater. But the one on the right is a giant, and I'm going to say now, it really is that big. Giant. Go and Google it. Trust me, giant woodlouse, that big. And apparently they're delicious. But then they would be, because they're very similar creatures. Because isopods, woodlouse isopod, giant isopod is an isopod. Other creatures that are isopods: prawns, shrimps, lobsters. Num 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 num. Don't care what you say, unless you don't like seafood, which is fair enough. I had a whelk. My first ever seafood was a whelk, and I went off seafood for years. And then someone put a prawn in my mouth. And the next thing I know, I'm like a basking shark. Open my mouth, put me in the sea and push me forward. I'll eat everything that goes in. Anyway, the reason I've got a picture of the nasty Slater and the nice Slater on my thumbnail is that the nasty one wants to ban a particular chemical to get sprayed everywhere that will kill bugs and ticks, a particular type of bug and tick that spreads Lyme disease. Now, Lyme disease, if you're unaware, I'm sure most of you are, but for those of you that aren't, Lyme disease, particularly horrible disease. It can be life-threatening, and even for people it doesn't end up taking the life of. It leaves them sometimes permanently, horribly disabled. It is an awful disease, and it can be. It can't ever really, I suppose, be eradicated, but it can certainly be controlled by the use of these chemicals sprayed in. Now, these chemicals don't kill everything. It's not Agent Orange or DDT or anything like that, but it does kill these particular ticks, which is what you actually want it for. But Lorna Slater, for reasons that she can't possibly understand, because she isn't clever enough, wants it banned. What are you on, Lorna? Anyway, we'll have a look at this to see why she is going on one about this. And to remember that of the two Slaters in the thumbnail, one of them is nice. Here goes. So, Lorna Slater's hostility to weed killer is blamed for a delay to the life-saving disease-carrying tick management. Ticks have been found to spread life-threatening diseases to people and livestock, but it's up to the Scottish Government to authorise the use of Agilox herbicide, which will, help deal with this problem and hopefully eradicate things like Lyme disease. So the Scottish Greens could trigger a public health crisis with their opposition to a weed killer that would target the habitat of ticks known for carrying Lyme disease. So what is their objection here? Oh, you're going to kill a plant. Well, yeah, but on the other hand, rather a plant dies than a human being. But that's not how the Greens see it. The UK government has approved the use of Agilox, a chemical that destroys bracken where ticks breed. It has been used to control invasive weeds in summer months and is welcomed by farmers who back the use of helicopters to reach tough access spots. The Scottish government now stands accused of delaying the same tactic in Scotland that would most effectively be used when in a short window that begins on July the 1st. Well, this is it. This is the breeding season for these ticks. So it's only a 2-3 week, period window. And if you get it early, you get rid of these ticks. It helps animals. It helps humans. It stops the spread of disease. No one loses except a little bit of bracken, which then regrows next year anyway. The ticks lose, I suppose. The ticks lose, but that's not good enough for the bad Slater. Earlier this year, fears hit a new high as the UK Health Security Agency confirmed a case of tick-borne encephalitis in the UK. It's a serious condition in which the brain becomes inflamed. As well as human infections, looping illness, is spread by the biting insects that often cause fatal inflammation of the brain in livestock. Now, there are lots of diseases that are spread by ticks and insects and things. Indeed, one of the biggest killers in history, malaria, is spread obviously by mosquitoes. And nobody objects to the fact that you go out and spray tons and tons of stuff over where mosquitoes are, because you're going to save tens or hundreds of thousands of lives. Even today, malaria, in this era where we've got all sorts of medications and things, malaria still kills 300,000, 400,000 people a year. Terrible disease. Anyway, Brian Walker has 950 breeding ewes and 80 cows. I'm presuming they don't breed with each other. That would be like the island of Dr. Moreau, wouldn't it? On a 2,500 acre hill farm near Inverary in Argyll and Bute. He's used aerial spreading in 2010 to control the bracken, which has kept it at bay for the past decade or so. But it has now grown to a point where it is posing a risk to his livelihood. So he wants get back up in the helicopter, over it goes, spreads it down, kills the bracken, kills the ticks, saves his sheep and cows and possibly people's lives. He told the Scotsman, "We're at that point now where the bracken is up to a level where we can't see the sheep. We now have a really dense bracken growing on top of a dense bracken debris. It means it's become a hotbed for ticks." And then obviously now a hotbed for disease. And what do you do when you've got disease? You stop it, unless you're the bad Slater. So in a joint statement, National Farmers Union Scotland, Scottish Land and Estates and the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust and the Bracken Control Group said this has not only increased the risks of bracken as set out above, but also reverses the benefits of public money already spent. We urge the Scottish Government to restore this option in future rounds of funding. In 2022, Ms Slater said there is a need to move away from the use of emergency authorisations as the solution and look into a more sustainable long-term alternatives to Agilox. I tell you what, Lorna, you go and look into that and then you come back and report to say what you've found that is a better solution. And once you've found that better solution, we'll present it to Parliament and they'll vote on it. Until then, they'll carry on using Agilox until you come up with the better idea. You'll be waiting a long time. She doesn't have any ideas, never mind better ones. Mr Ewing told the Daily Mail that despite his lengthy campaign for the early authorisation of Agilox, Minister Slater appears hostile to this. He added, "It would be outrageous if Scottish hill farmers and land managers are denied the use of Agilox, which has now been approved in England." He said refusing to allow Agilox in Scotland could trigger a bigger public health crisis. Because it just plainly will. You don't kill these bugs, these ticks. They spread some of the worst diseases you can imagine. Authorising the chemical's use is within the power of the Scottish Government, who said it was aware it had been authorised in England and had advised the Health and Safety Executive that we wish to give further consideration to our response. In other words, we're not saying yes because we want to delay it. If you delay it another week, it's too late and you might as well just take sheep out and end the lives of the sheep, because that's what the bugs are going to do. It's a horrible, horrible way to go. Scottish Conservative Shadow Rural Affairs Secretary Rachel Hamilton MSP said, "Now that England have taken the welcome decision to approve the use of Agilox, there is simply no time for SNP Green ministers to wait. They have already dithered and delayed for far too long, despite repeated pressure, not only from myself but also the industry itself. Agilox," she said, "is by far and away the most effective method of controlling bracken, which is a major risk to those living and visiting Scotland's wonderful countryside. Land managers need to be given the tool to control Lyme disease and stop the spread of dangerous ticks across Scotland." Why is Lorna Slater, that she's the bad Slater, not allowing this to happen? It's her bailiwick, you see. She's not allowing this because she thinks it's wrong to do this. Right. But she can't come up with an alternative. She's too stupid to come up with an alternative. And she's too stupid to see the consequences of not doing this. And this is what I've said time and time again. The problem, particularly with the Greens, is they're so stupid they don't understand consequences. Consequences put people in their graves, and it's up to her. She said the Green Minister must listen to the desperate pleas from farmers and rural communities, and urgently grant the use of Agilox. And she is right, because without this, Lyme disease spreads, and then every case of Lyme disease will be at Lorna Slater's door. Lorna Slater, despite everything she's done, despite the corruption, the stupidity, the ineptitude, the wasting of money left, right and centre, the hypocrisy, she's now causing a clear and present danger to human life in Scotland. And she's still in her job. Do the people who voted her in, yesterday and backed her realise the danger she has caused the people of Scotland? Direct physical harm to the point that people may die. And still she's there. Unbelievable. Anyway, I'm rounding up, and I'm going to go and laugh at her, because I hope people start suing her. I hope the farmers start suing her for all the lost sheep and animals and things that have died because of all these various diseases. Her personally, not the government. Sue her personally. Anyway, I'm coming up. Now, I bet if you asked her and said, Lorna, why do you object to Agilox? Tell me your reasoning. Tell me your understanding of what this thing does, and tell me why you object to it. She'd just go, chemicals in it or something. She wouldn't have a clue. She couldn't explain what it does. She wouldn't be able to tell you why it works. She wouldn't say what the consequences of not doing it were. She wouldn't. She has this ideological obsession with, we can't put chemicals in because I'm a green. But she would actually end up causing more harm, way more harm by not doing it than by doing it. She will actually cause more death, more destruction, economic hardship. And economic hardship is the quickest way to screw an environment, because if you don't have the cash to look after it, nobody looks after it. These people are IQ, room temperature IQ, aren't they? They are so stupid. And you can't tell them. We try, but they can't. They're just incapable of learning. Because to learn means you've got to actually... My dog has probably got a higher IQ. I've trained my dog to do tricks. He'll lay on his back, he'll roll over. He does all sorts. He gives me kisses and all that, right? I can train my dog. I couldn't train Lorna Slater. She's not as clever as my dog. I have to pay him biscuits, but hey, it's a deal. It's a deal. Anyway, I shall finish there. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay away from ticks, that's for sure, and goodbye.